Before we begin the video, if you haven't yet, come on down and join my Discord server. Link is down in the description. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel for our final Season 12 video. In today's video, we will be doing our Prime Empire ranking updates. So basically, since the season is over, that means we have to add it to our ranking lists, like intros, villains, and more. And rather than remaking every single video, I'm making one video to cover it all. So let's dive right into it. We'll begin with the intros. Obviously, every Ninjago season has its own intro, and Season 12's is very similar to Season 11's. So we have the same recapping that we had in the last intro, and I don't really think it's much better than the last season. Still, I don't really feel the recaps work too well. However, the rest of the intro is miles better. I feel like it's really good because it actually fits the theme, unlike Season 11's, which was just too random, and aside from the colors, didn't really fit the theme. I really like the idea of using the arcade boxes, and I think the music is mostly good. Not the best, but still pretty good. The animation also looks really nice, and I also like the use of the Prime Empire motherboard at the start. So I would say Prime Empire's intro is kind of like the worst of the best. It is a good intro, but other intros are way better. I definitely feel, however, that it is better than the Season 8 and Season 11 intros. Next up, ranking the villains. This season's main villain is Unagami, so let's talk about him next. I think Unagami is mostly a good villain. I really like the idea of him being an AI, and that is something that's really unique for the show. I think his relationship with Dyer is a standout aspect of the season, and I also love his ending. They gave him a great conclusion with him becoming good and turning into a child. Coming out of Season 11, I would not have expected a villain like Unagami, so I mostly feel he's well done. Unfortunately, the big issue though is that we didn't see enough of Unagami. He definitely needed more screen time, and that still remains a big issue with the format. Also, an issue in the Ice chapter, villains need to be seen more. So Unagami will go right in the middle of the list, in between the Ice Emperor and Pythor. You see, Unagami does have a level of emotion. He has more substance than villains like Asphira and Omega, which automatically puts him above them. Sadly though, a lack of screen time holds him back from being in the top 5, and yeah, I definitely would have loved to have seen more of him. For the next few minutes, we're going to talk about a few villain subcategories, and let's start with motives. A villain's motives are the why. Why exactly is the villain carrying out this plan? And in Unagami's case, he wants to confront Dyer, as he says in episode 15. The wide majority of Ninjago villains are obsessed with power or greed, and that's just so boring. Even Garmadon is obsessed with that. Unagami, though, I think his motives are actually really interesting and definitely stand out, because Unagami is not a power-hungry villain. He's just a lost and confused person, and he doesn't know what he's doing is wrong. I feel his motives are creative and original compared to other villains, so I actually placed him in top 3 along with Harumi and Nadakon. Now, one thing you don't see talked about as much is the soundtrack, but all main Ninjago villains do have their own theme. The quality isn't the best here, but here's what Unagami's theme sounds like. All of the villain soundtracks are really good, but I don't know, this one I especially love. I love the mysterious feeling of it, and I feel like it's really well done. I feel that it is overall a very menacing theme, and I'm glad they used it a lot in Prime Empire. This one will qualify for my top 5 and will go right above Garmadon and right below Moro. Ninjago soundtracks are just such an underrated gem of the series, and they're really good. They deserve to be talked about a lot more. And our last villain category to talk about will be backstories. Every good villain has one, and they typically explain how the villain became a villain. One cool thing about Season 12 is it really is less traditional. It doesn't really scream Ninjago to you in terms of the concept and the lore, and I actually think that's good. It's been really refreshing to see a different side of Ninjago explored in this season, and I also feel that applies to Unagami's backstory. And again, I love Unagami being an AI, and I feel that him actually being in the game is really cool. Then we also have the whole Unfinished Adventure Game 1, which is really clever actually, and how that is actually Unagami's name. However, I feel we could have seen a bit more. How did Unagami go from Unfinished Adventure Game 1 to the ruler of Prime Empire? For example, I would have loved a scene showing Unagami finishing Prime Empire and creating the Red Visors. So here's my backstory list, and villains like Omega and Iron Baron aren't here because they don't really have individual backstories. As for Unagami, he gets number 5, wedged in between Season 11's Asphira and the Ice Emperor. Enough of the villains, let's move on to some other stuff, starting with the season premieres. This season's premiere is called Would You Like to Enter Prime Empire? And I actually really like it. In fact, I'd even say it's one of the best episodes of the season, and I especially think it works with the new format. The format is great for these exposition type episodes, which also includes premieres. The premieres from the first 10 seasons were a lot slower and they kind of dragged on at times, but that definitely is not an issue here. While this episode may be faster paced, it still manages to set up the story very well and definitely got me hooked. Also, this episode had good humor, which definitely kept it fun. I would say that this is actually one of the better season premieres of Ninjago, going at 4th place for me. For me, Winds of Change and Invitation will always dominate those top 2 positions. Those are both 10 out of 10 episodes. Having talked about premieres, let's move to the other side and discuss the season finales. Prime Empire's finale is titled Game Over, and it definitely has some issues. For one, it is obviously rushed, and it fails to tie up a few key loose ends. The rest of the episode, though, is very enjoyable and has some really amazing stuff. It has a stellar action scene, very nicely done by Wildbrain, and also that awesome scene with Dire and Dunagami. While the episode does have a variety of technical flaws, I still feel it was very nicely done and a lot of care was put into it. Game Over may be in the bottom half of my list, but I still really like it, and I think every Ninjago season finale is good. Yes, I'll say it, I even think Endings is a good episode. It's just that you have some finales that are legendary, and others that are decent. And last but not least, where does Prime Empire fall into my ranking of the seasons? I do hope to make an updated video on this later this month because it has been over a year, but for now I figured I'd include it in here. If you've watched my videos recently, you probably already know my stance on Prime Empire. Basically, I think it's a good but not great season. I think what holds it back the most is a lack of ninja growth, and the side characters may be good, but the ninja just don't feel all that great to me. The rest of the season, though, has a very interesting story that was really exciting to follow. For many, including myself, season 11 was a really bad spot in the series, and it is still my least favorite season. So moving forward, I was definitely skeptical about what season 12 would be like, and I was definitely less hyped. I must say though, it was great to have been proven wrong on this. Despite its flaws though, I still feel this season is a very fun ride and definitely has me hyped for what's to come. This season will take 8th place in my ranking, going in between season 2 and the pilots. My favorite season is, and will likely always remain, Tournament of Elements, with Hunted and Sons of Garmadon in 2nd and 3rd respectively. And that is about all for our season 12 Prime Empire coverage. We started with this season way back in July of 2019, and here we are 10 months later. It's been quite a ride and I've enjoyed covering this season, and I hope you've enjoyed my coverage as well. Coming up next, look out for my 5,000 subscribers Q&A, which will release in the next week. Then after that, we're back to general Ninjago stuff and rankings, and that'll continue until season 13 comes around. But for now, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, share with anyone and everyone you know, post a comment below explaining where season 12 falls in your rankings, and I'll see you next time.